So today's guest has played 30 Test matches for his country, taken 110 wickets, including a best of a 9 for 129. I met him last year when he came over to play for Yorkshire, where he absolutely tore up county cricket, taking 38 wickets, just 18. His contribution for us at Yorkshire, wasn't just on the field. I think for me and the other spinners at the club, it was fascinating to pick his brains, and I think we all learned a lot about spin bowling and what's made him successful in his career so far. So, Keshav Maharaj, welcome to the Spin Badger podcast, mate.
Thanks, Josh. Thanks for having me.
Good man. So I'm going to start right at the beginning of your career. How did you become a spinner? In the early days when you were young, what led to you being a spin bowler?
Yeah, actually, funny story is I started off as a fast bowler. I think every youngster doesn't take spinning seriously from childhood days. And I was bowling in the nets one day and I got upset with the coach. And to irritate him even more, I decided to bowl spin. And from that day onwards, I never bowled a ball of seam ever again in my life. And yeah, I'd like to look, I don't want to ever look back from where I was to where I am now. I think I made the right decision at the time. Being a defiant person at times, I think it played in my favor to sort of become a spin bowler.
Yeah, I think that's a very common trait, as you hear about a lot of seamers turning to spin. I think especially in like left arm spinners, it seems like there's a lot that had that kind of journey.
Yeah, I think like I said, the glitz and glamours with the fast bowlers and the batters. There's no one that takes spin bowling really seriously. So yeah, I think if we as spinners sort of set the standard for youngsters coming up, then we wouldn't have to have the difficult transition in the younger age group categories.
Definitely. So again, reflecting on your early journey, what was, I guess we're going to skip through quite a bit of your career here, but what was your journey like in the early days of being a professional cricketer? What was the things that led to your journey into international cricket?
Yeah, I think it was a very difficult journey at first, like most people would have experienced. It wasn't just, you play club cricket and progress that way. I think I played years and years of club cricket and sort of knocked on the door eventually to get a semi-professional debut. I think that's equivalent to County Twos cricket back home in England. Played in and out, and it was never quite here or there in terms of the setup. You get the odd game, you do okay, and then come back, you get left out. And then I remember making my debut for proper county cricket, call it domestic cricket here at the age of 20. I played my first T20. It went okay. I wouldn't look too much into that. And then I played my first 4-day game, but still felt that I personally was, a little bit out of my depth, possibly because I haven't been exposed to the standard of cricket and not having much experience at the sort of semi-professional level to come through. And then, I worked really hard. I played my first full season of semi-professional cricket after that. I did really, really well for the next 2 years with ball and bat, surprisingly. And then, started playing more of domestic cricket here in terms of the 4-day stuff and breaking into the 1-day stuff. Then I got deemed a 1-day cricketer. And, it was nice because the white ball stuff is where the fun, excitement, the cameras and all that is. So, as a cricketer, that's what you want. Let's face it, you don't want to just play behind closed doors where there's no crowds. And I did really well in white ball cricket. And thereafter started playing a few 4-day stuff, but it still never go well in 4-day cricket because it's a different art of bowling in white ball compared to the longer format. I worked really hard on my consistency, and I started seeing the rewards in the longer format. And 2 seasons later, I ended up coming to play club cricket in Sussex, where I was quite a podgy kid, and I needed to lose weight and get fit and things like that. So I worked really hard on my fitness aspect. And I lost 17 kilos of weight in about 3 months. So that really changed my life in terms of giving me confidence and things like that. For one, I could not take my shirt in the change room because I felt very uncomfortable with the body that I had. And, you look at other guys and they have tone-defined bodies or what have you. So I thought, oh, wow, let me try to do something for myself. And it just gives you a little bit of spring in your step, knowing that, you can walk with confidence with your chest out, not having to sort of hide your man boobs and things like that in public. So yeah, that's when it started. I came back, played 2 full seasons of proper sort of county equivalent to county cricket, and I did really well. I was leading wicket taker for 2 years for the franchise, and then I remember being called up for SAA and things like that, and yeah, played in and out. Did really well when I did play, and yeah, little did I know that I'd be jetting off to Australia to sort of be a part of the squad. Even then, not knowing that I would play my first Test match, and there was a lot of hype and stuff around the series, and are they going to play a spinner and this and that. And I tore my hamstring during the first warm-up game. Luckily, it wasn't something too severe, but I was really despondent on myself because I thought, oh gosh, you've been given an opportunity and now this happens. Anyway, worked really hard with the backroom staff, and the physio Brandon Jackson got me running within 2 days again, and 2 weeks later I debuted in Perth. And yeah, I like to think there's a reason why everything happened at that time, and yeah, very fortunate to have been given my international debut.
Well, mate, there's a lot to talk about there, and I think the first thing I'd say is it's really good to hear that there was, I guess, some bumps in your journey. Like you said, it was a long process. I think I remember reading Clive Woodward, the England rugby coach book, and he said, no success happens in a straight line. And I think that's such a key thing for players to remember as they go through their career. Like, through those times you said, at the start of your career when you're in and out, and even I guess, in right up to your international debut, like what things separated you from other spinners in terms of like you just kept improving, like what characteristics really set you apart in that continually improving?
Yeah, I think it took towards my early 20s to understand that as a teenager, whether we like it or not, when we have competition, we always want to be better than our competition. So if the competition is playing ahead of you, you hope the person doesn't do well, just so that you can get your thing. And it's a fact of life, and I can openly admit it, and I'm man enough to say that that's how we go as cricketers. And I've sort of understood that be happy for the other person, and in doing so, reward will come on your own. But I think my mindset change came when you become so despondent and think, why? And you look for other avenues to vent your frustration. But I took, when I was being left out of the team, I looked at a different aspect of where I could improve myself. And I thought, okay, the coach left me out because my fielding's bad. And I went and I worked really hard on my fielding. And every time I got left out of a team, I try to better myself by 2% so that I know I don't give anyone an opportunity to leave me out when the time does come. So I think from a mindset change that helped me in leaps and bounds getting to where I am, because it's very easy when you've been left out of a team to become really despondent, and you can't go pear-shaped from there because you don't want to train, you got no enthusiasm and nothing. But I think if you have a passion for the game and you know where you want to go, obstacles are actually the best thing for your career, because if something's smooth sailing, it's sometimes too good to be true. It's the old saying, when it's too good to be true, it generally doesn't last very long. So I think moments that define you, it builds your character, and yeah, I think it also helps you to relate in various aspects of life. When things get tough, it's very difficult to throw in the towel, and I think mentally it builds you even more rather than breaking you.
Definitely. I think obviously we had a lot of conversations last summer, but you don't really appreciate people's full journey until you do dive into it quite deeply. So I want to speak a little about that, what you said about losing weight. I think as someone who's played a lot of cricket in the Sussex Cricket League, I think you, like you said, you probably weren't alone in the Cookfield changing room in terms of being a big lad. But, first of all, like, I guess, let's get really specific. What stuff did you do to lose the weight? And also, like, specifically for your bowling, like, how did that improve you in terms of being a lot fitter as a spinner?
Yeah, I think, I've always been a hard worker in terms of training and things like that. It's just the main thing that I did was my diet. My diet was a big problem. I eat too much of bread and, sugar stuff, all the good things that one would enjoy. But yeah, I've realized that, it's an old saying by Muhammad Ali. They say, sacrifice now and live the rest of your life like a champion. And, there's so much truth in that. And I'm also a person, if I want to do something, I'll research myself and find information and find out ways with what works for me best. I mean, I'd get advice from professionals, but it may not be best for me because I'm in my body. I know how my body reacts to certain things, So I did, at the trainer at the time, his name was Zaf. He's now in Germany or Switzerland, sorry. So we worked hand in hand in terms of him giving me programs, and I just followed a diet what I knew what was best for me and how to cut out certain things. And it was tough at first. Let's not face it, to give up fried chips and soft white bread and a can of Coke or what have you. It's really difficult, especially in the first week or two. But when you jump on the scale and you start seeing it decline by 1 kilo or 2 kilos or whatever the case is as you go on, and it happens really rapidly, surprisingly, it's actually motivating, and you start enjoying it so that you don't get those cravings anymore. I got so pedantic that I never ate anything that was unhealthy for a month at a time. And they always say every 10 days, just give your body something that's probably not the healthiest thing, just to shock it a bit, that you don't get too used to it. And, it keeps your immune still strong. But I became so pedantic as to where I wanted to go that I didn't even take that chance of eating a pizza or eating anything like that or having a sugar drink. In terms of physical training, I just, I used to be one of the groundsmen at Cookfield. So on a Tuesday and Thursday, I used to go there and, help out where I can. And I used to run there. So I think it was 5.2 Ks away from where I stayed. So I used to run there and then get a lift back. But every time I ran, I made sure I tried to better my time, even if it was by a second, because I don't believe in doing things for the sake of it. I actually believe in trying to push yourself all the time. So, and it's a motivating feeling seeing, like, the numbers on the scale, is that the times that you do that keep declining that way. And yeah, I used to spend an hour in the gym every alternate day and then look forward to practice in the evening. So that's how it all happened.
Yeah, I think interesting you see the ground at Cookfield. Like, I remember playing there when I was like really young and just getting absolutely whacked into the field next to it. And I remember there being loads of like horses in there. I think they're in a bit of danger, I think. So on the fitness kind of kick you're in on then, like, how did that help you bowling?
Yeah, obviously it allows you to bowl for long periods of time. But anyone can do that. Let's face it, you don't need to be lean to bowl for long periods of time. But the intensity at which you bowl at is what's crucial for the end of the day, because anyone can bowl 20 overs, and what you dish out is a different story based on your fitness levels. I think that helped me. Apart from, from being intense in the way I think and things, I think your mental state is that you don't fatigue as quickly, and you're allowed to think more clearer when you're not as tired, opposed to when you're tired. You get flustered and your heart's racing, you get nervous, your hands tense up, and generally you don't land the ball where you want it to go. So I think from that point of view, it's helped a lot. Just the ability to be able to think and stay calm in pressure situations. That's where your fitness comes hand in hand with that.
Nice, mate. And then, like, you spoke about bowling a lot, and we had Jack Shutt on, who you would have met last time on the podcast a couple of episodes ago, and he spoke about, from speaking to you, and it's definitely one of my takeaways, was like, in the winter, if you're trying to drill something technical, how much you bowl, and bowling like crazy long spells, like even in the winter. Could you maybe like elaborate on what that process is like?
Yeah, so I've just started, and for me starting, I'll bowl 10 overs a day of just standing drills, because I always believe you work your way back from your base at the crease. I mean, your run-up can be very messed up, and if your base is strong at the crease, everything will come out perfectly. So, yeah, in terms of loads, I do an excessive amount of bowling. Sometimes it's unheard of what I do, and it's about 30 to 50 overs a day, very easily. I believe the more you train, the more you sort of routine and program yourself, the easier it becomes in the test match or 4-day game or a 1-day game or whatever you're playing, to understand what you're trying to achieve. You know where the ball's going to go. Also, if you don't train and have a prolonged spell in you, how are you going to run? Sorry, let me phrase this better. If you run a 20K marathon, you can't do 2 5Ks and expect to get to the 20K. You've got to actually do more than the 20K to do a 30K, so that when the time comes to the 20K, you can actually beat your time, because you've got that base, and it becomes a lot easier. So I believe in that. And as a spinner, people expect you to bowl overs. So, it could be a 30 to 40 over spell on a flatty at, Surrey. We all know the Kia Oval to be a flat one when it wants to be. And what's going to happen? The captain throws the ball. It says, I need 30 overs from you for 60 runs, that sort of thing. And if you haven't conditioned yourself to bowl that long spell, how are you going to expect to do it at the best possible intensity in the game? So, yeah, having chatted with Jack, I think as a youngster, you don't understand the value of bowling loads. And, bowling loads doesn't mean, today I'm just going to bowl 30 overs, but you're probably hitting the side net and you're missing your mark. It's proper intense work that, at the end of the week, you can look back and say, I've had a good week. Let me enjoy my Saturday and Sunday off. So from that point of view, yeah, I think it's crucial. And I do a lot of target bowling simply because I don't like distractions around me when I bowl. And, when you're bowling to a batter, the batters sometimes get carried away and they start to mess around, and I hate training that way because for me, I'm not doing what I've set out to achieve, and it's very easy to become sidetracked and caught up in that bubble where you start practicing bad habits. And also, if you can't land a ball on a length with no batter there, how are you going to do it when the batter is there, when he's putting you under pressure? That sort of thing. So that's my mindset as to why I do a lot of bowling alone and indoors to targets, because I believe it's the easiest way to understand your game. It's the easiest way to fine-tune things. And when you're in the pressure situation in a game, only you can bowl the ball. No coach can say, do this, and you're going to do it right, because he's not your body. He can give you the advice, but if you haven't done the work, it's not going to land where you expect it to land.
Yeah, I think that's so refreshing to hear someone just talk about bowling so much. In this modern era, a lot of people are cautious about workloads and that kind of thing. But at the end of the day, if you don't do the work to get, to the skill level you have, none of that really matters. So I think as long as you're sensible of how you build it up, and like you said, you get your fitness to a level, I think there's no doubting. Definitely in my career, I went through in similar phase. I was 18, 19, just bowling an excessive amount, and that's how you get your control. That's how you do that. But one question I really wanted to ask you about that, Kesh, is when you're just bowling indoors, how do you keep that intensity up? Is it just constant self-monitoring? Do you set yourself little challenges? Do you put an actual target down? How does that work?
Yeah, obviously, it's easy to get bored from bowling long spells. Let's call a spade, especially when you're alone. So it's nice. You break it up into 10 over spells, depending on how big your session is going to be, whether it be an hour or two and you cover your thing. For me personally, I bowl 15 to 20, take a break, and I'll see it and I'll assess how it's going. If it's going not well, I'll go and resort back to my drills, and I'll go, fine tune for another 10 to 15 overs. And then, see how, okay, it's gone like this. I'm happy with where I'm at. That's my session done. So I think keep refreshing. It's not easy to come in from bowling 5-6 overs at a time to just go 20 overs on the trot and keep the same intensity. For a youngster, build it up. When you first start bowling, it's 10 to 15 a day of standing drills, and you slowly, because your body also needs to get back to the movement. It's very easy to wake up the next day stiff, and then, you're back to square one where you can't bowl for a few days, and that's the last thing that you want. So, you build it up, do it in 10 over spells, take a break, have a sip of water, relax for 10, 15 minutes, rejuvenate the mind, and assess, okay, that felt good. Can I try something else? Can I work on my flight now? But mastering your stock ball is your first asset. And if you can't bowl your stock ball, your googly is not going to land, your slider is not going to land, your arm ball is not going to land. So I think mastering your stock ball with the same intensity consistently. And there's nothing wrong with taking a pause in between every ball that you bowl. Because when we're in a spell, as a spinner, I'll be honest, when you're in a rhythm, you just want to bowl, get through it because you're feeling so good. But we don't realize that when we train, we actually need to train in opposites, because we want to inculcate good habits within us all the time. Like I said, if you're going through motions, it's very easy. It's hitting there. There's no batter. Don't worry about it. I'll get the next ball. And you start practicing those bad habits. So there's also standards that you expect of yourself. I'm trying to get 6 balls on my target consistently. And, we're not always going to land 6 out of 6. But as long as we realistically within the same area and the same groupings for consistent periods, then we know we're on the right track with regards to our training.
Definitely. And do you put a target down?
Yeah, definitely. I think if you aim at nothing, you'll hit it all the time. So you'll be fooling yourself all the time. So I think it's important to have a guide. At the start of the season, put your target down but it's not the be-all and end-all of hitting the target, especially for the first week, because you're getting your fingers loose, getting your thing, moving towards something. And slowly, you'll find you'll hit the target more often, but you've got to have something down. I mean, it's like throwing a ball in air. If you throw it in the air, what are you planning to hit? It's just going to come back to you. But if you have a target, at least you point your finger forward, you'll take aim, pause, because you want to hit the target. So I believe in always putting something down.
Do you put it in the same spot every time, or do you change it up?
Yeah, so obviously you practice to right-handers, left-handers, and different angles and stuff. I think as a base, you'll stand. For me personally, for a right-hander, you put the ball on off stump about 2 meters from the return crease. The perfect lungelet where you feel it's going to hit the batsman's splice all the time, and then you sort of come over the wicket and you ball outside as if there's wide rough, if the rough is a bit closer to the stumps, and then similarly to a left-hander, you ball hitting the top of off stump, finishing on off stump, so you'll probably be landing on about 5th or 6th stump. Then you come around the wicket, practicing hitting on off stump, sliding across. You've got to play with angles, because let's face it, there's no blueprint in any given game. There could be a game where it's absolutely raggy and you've got to actually bowl maybe leg stump line, and you're so used to bowling off stump line, where leg stump line becomes very difficult, and you start undercutting the ball and it's missing the stumps all the time. So you've got to practice good habits and practice various situations. I think practicing specifically, it makes a large difference in the outcome of your results at the end of the season, because you've obviously done your grounding work. It's like going into an exam. If you haven't studied a section and it comes out, how do you expect to get 80% or 90% for that section? You're not going to do it because you don't have the knowledge of it and how to go about it.
Well, what do you use for a target? Is it like a disc or?
I use cones. I'll be honest, a lot of people use a mat and things, but I like cones because for me, I feel some sort of good feeling when I see the cones exploding and I see it, like hitting and things like that. So it's rewarding. It's psychological for me that if I see it happening, it's like it's a motivating factor. So I use cones. Some people like this. Some people use shoes, surprisingly, at the crease line and leave it there to sort of emulate the batsman standing there. So whatever someone feels comfortable with, by all means. For me, I like the cones because, like I said, I like the feeling of seeing the ball the cones explode when the ball hits it.
Yeah, I guess everyone's different, aren't they? Like for me, but personally, I don't like cones because I like seeing the ball react if it's spinning and stuff. Do you know what I mean? I guess that's the beauty of everything, and especially spin bowling. Like everyone's got different things that they like seeing. So I think that's for anyone listening, finding out what stuff you kind of respond well to.
Yeah. So
I think that's amazing, mate. Like such detail about your training regime, and hopefully a lot of people have taken stuff from that. Your best figures in Test match cricket, you got 9 for, I think it was 127, is it, against Sri Lanka? And in that game, I think South Africa fielded for 105, 110 overs, I think it was, and you bowled 40 plus overs. So it's like a massive proportion of that. And that just shows that, doing that period of work and having that stamina is really crucial. In that game, what clicked on that day? What kind of stuff were you feeling, and to have such a dominant performance?
Yeah, I think unfortunately we played only one spinner, so the load was on me. But I like responsibility, and I love what I do. So that's probably my first asset that I have, and I love bowling. And I believe that the longer you bowl, the more chance of getting wickets you have. That's my mindset, because I believe if you bowl 20 overs, you will take 2 or 3 wickets, and maybe you might take 5 on another day. So it's an opportunity to get wickets every time you bowl. But even having said that, my mindset's not to take wickets. It's always to try and, bowl as many dot balls as possible and frustrate the batter, because that's what Test cricket's about. It's about frustrating batters and making them make the play and cause mistakes in that manner. So, that day, I struggled a bit in the first innings of the first Test. And then I got it right in the second innings. I think I got a few wickets, but it just felt so nice coming out that I wasn't even bothered about the end result. I was just feeling so nice. And then came into the second Test. I remember I bowled probably about 50 overs the day before, no exaggeration. In training, for 3 hours, I just bowled. Yeah, in training, I just bowled for 3 hours.
How do you even fit that into a a net session, like, you know, when you're training for, like, you know, there's a structured training, like, just to bowl for that long?
Yeah, so I always like only 2 bowlers in the nets because it helps get your loads up, and
I'm with you there.
there's very little chance for distraction because with 2 people, there's 1 person always bowling, so there's not time to interact in that thing. When there's a third person, there's always 2 people left in the net talking, and that's the last thing I want. So I bowled for an hour and a half, and then I remember going indoors with the spin coach at the time and the video analyst and just bowling for an hour and a half again, and just bowling and bowling and bowling and bowling. And yeah, I covered about 50 overs because I bowled 2 balls every minute, something ridiculous like that. And yeah, I literally bowled a spell, and I was feeling good. But I managed myself really well in the day before. You know, got your hydration, got enough sleep, because it's crucial. Let's face it, being a professional, it's not just about bowling, batting, fitness. It's eating, it's sleeping, it's hydration. It's a combination of things. And especially in Sri Lanka, with the heat being so excessive, similarly to any other subcontinent. So yeah, came back the next morning. Obviously, we lost the toss and got put into bowl. Not ideal in continent. And yeah, I ended up bowling about 40 overs back to back. I remember there was a period in the game when the captain's like, you know, just take a break. I was like, you're not taking this ball away from me, because I was feeling so good. And it took a while to get a wicket, because I started off a little bit, I wouldn't say to the best of my ability. I remember bowling to the left-hander, and I burgled one down leg off the lefty. And, you know, that just set the ball rolling. And then I just got into my rhythm, and it just felt so nice coming out. So, yeah, I think bowling longer spells, it's a motivation to get more wickets, and youngsters should embrace it, because, you know, as a batters bat for 400 balls to make 200 or whatever. So what's there if we bowl 400 balls to get 5 wickets or 6 wickets? You know, it looks good at the end of the day when you got a 6 for 4, even if it's 6 for 120 in about 45 overs. I mean, what more could you ask for? It says 6 on the thing. You've got an asterisk on your 5-wicket column, and it's another test wicket to your belt. So embrace it. You've got to love what you do. If you don't love what you do, maybe change it to being a fast bowler or being a batter or something like that. Because if you don't have love for what you do, you're probably in the wrong profession.
Definitely. Amen, mate. So, like, staying on that, bowling in Sri Lanka, or I guess bowling in the subcontinent or around the world, like, do you change much how you bowl in different conditions?
You know, sometimes I feel like people overanalyze a lot of things, and you know, you expect in the subcontinent the ball's going to spin sideways, but we forget that, you know, the art of spin bowling is beating a guy through the air, not off the wicket, because there's no art off the wicket. It's just conditions that simulate a lot of things. So I still believe in bowling with good shape. You know, the one thing that people get very confused about is people say bowl it quicker. And for me, being a finger spinner, bowling it quicker is actually quicker through the air. It's not quicker as in that you lose your shape and your loop and things like that. So I found that generally your lines might change a little bit, but in terms of, and I'm sorry, your lengths might change a little bit, but your line's generally the same. You still want to give him that uncomfortable line where he's not sure whether to play, if one's going to turn, one going to slide, you know, that sort of thing. I think field positionings become a little bit more crucial in subcontinent, because your one options are more blocked off because it's harder when the ball is turning, but your boundary options become a lot easier, because it's actually easier to hit a 6 or 4 in the subcontinent than it is to hit a boundary. So people get carried away in terms of bringing the field so close up that before you know it, they've gone 4 overs for 30 and, you know, release the pressure and the batter's in. So I think as spinners, you need to go about the other way around, is where you leave your in-out fields. You're still stopping your ones. You still got your catches, but you're also limiting the boundary chances. And, you know, you work your way into your spell that way, because it's very easy for captains nowadays. When the spinner goes 3 overs for 15, he's like, no, you're not doing your job. He's taking the ball away from you. And then you sit there sulking, thinking, but I'm feeling good. He's hit me, you know, out of good shots and things like that. So something to be mindful about. But yeah, sorry, just to answer the question of changing too much, I don't think you change too much as you go around the world, apart from your lengths and maybe a very varying of pace here and there. I mean, Hirat is a prime example where he didn't change much. He just uses angles on the crease wherever he went in the world, and he's successful wherever he's gone.
Moving away from your international career a little bit, I want to talk specifically about your stint for Yorkshire last summer. Like, what do you think, you know, made you successful in county cricket? Like, I remember first day you rocked up, we were training at Scarborough and it was a bit cloudy and a bit cold, like, and then from that day, pretty much, you know, everything went well for you. So what was the keys to you doing well in county cricket, and how did you approach it?
Yeah, I think from that cold day in Scarborough for me, I think firstly, the lads at Yorkshire were very welcoming. They made me feel comfortable. I mean, Martin made sure everything was done to the T, which, you know, it just helps knowing you got peace of mind and everything else is taken care of and you can focus on cricket. You know, there was no expectations placed on me. You know, and I think I was just given the platform to be myself. I don't have, if I didn't want to train, Gailey said, take your day off, you know, just make sure you're ready for the game. And that's what you want, you know, someone to manage you well. So I was put on a platform where I could just bowl. I didn't have to worry about someone telling me in my ear to do this, do that. I was just bowling, doing what I love. And I think, you know, you have a lot of lads in the change room, actually a good bunch of guys, you know, share a joke where, you know, things are not going well. There's still a good buzz on the field and enjoyment factor. So I think that's what helped me a lot. I think the welcoming I got from Yorkshire, it's a very family orientated club and I'm a big family person. So that made me settle in and made me feel very comfortable very quickly in the team environment, and obviously helped with the success, not having any expectation on my back apart from just coming there to bowl and try to give off my best.
Definitely, certainly a great environment at the club at the moment. So I think it's a shame we couldn't really get going and having you over for the start of the season. So thanks a lot for your time, Kesh. Just to finish off, and ask you what I've asked everyone else who's come on. So I'm going to ask for one bit of on-field advice and one bit of off-field advice for any spinners out there.
Yeah, I think, you know, unfortunately, spinners, it's a lonely world for spinners. I've heard this a lot in the Zoom calls this week, and it's very true because, you know, we're the easy targets. Let's face it, it's easy to leave a spinner out for selection rather than a fast bowler or you know, a batter of that sort. So I think whatever you do, be responsible for your own destiny. Take advice where you feel it's going to add benefit to you, but do a lot of stuff alone. That's the best way to find out about yourself. And when you're on the field, you're responsible for the outcomes and whatever transpires. So, yeah, just my advice, take responsibility, have the ownership, and be professional in whatever you do, because cricket can only last you so long, and you want to give yourself the best chance of prolonging your career for as much as possible by looking after your body. You know, unfortunately, our body is our tool, and without our body, no matter how good you are, if you got an injury, you're not going to be able to play. So look after yourself, be professional, but just take responsibility and be professional about what you want to do.
Definitely, Matt. All sounds spot on. Thanks so much for coming on. You know, you're a great help. Someone great to talk to last summer, and hopefully you'll be back over here with the White Rose on soon. But in the meantime, we'll let you get back to bowling your 60 overs a day.
Thanks, Josh, and yeah, keep well. Hopefully see you soon.